Welcome to Cryptozoology Show. This is a continuation with the Aliens and God Connection Part 2. I'm your host, the cryptozoologist. I wanted to clear up a few things that was missed out on the first one. I had to, I got stopped many times doing these recordings, and sometimes I repeated things, so I apologize about that, including a few bad jokes, sort of thing. True, but I mean, these were made at different times, and sort of they got mixed up, and I couldn't sort of, clean them out properly, sort of thing. So, I wanted to mention that, as well as that I was talking about a story about George, and so I'm sure some of you were wondering. All of a sudden I went off into something else, and it got caught again. The main thing is I'd forgotten, I wasn't able to get in these other parts, but just to give you the basic idea is that what had happened is that when these aliens that came down, one was a female, one was a male, one was 18 feet tall, one was 16 feet tall, as I mentioned the other one. But what I was trying to say was that what the reason they did this is they came down, they had a one eyeball, a slit, some kind of possibly a nose, but I mean, he didn't really, all he could remember mostly was that they weren't talking, they had a slit-like sort of thing, and a big giant eyeball in the center of their head, sort of, right? So, I mean, fascinating, but he said that these circles started shooting out of their eyeballs and flying towards them, and then it went into his brain, and he heard these voices, and they said, "Hi, George." So they wanted to say hi to George, so they stopped off in Poland to say hi to him and flew away. But you got to admit that this alien here that I'm showing you in this ancient depiction on this cave art is identical looking to as what I described in the first episode. I won't repeat the whole thing, but I mean, there was that. Also, in the Gatineau River got cut off about a part I was talking about with this orange and purple ball. We had sighted, I was with these three brothers and this other fellow, and we had sighted this giant purple ball and a giant sort of orangish, reddish colored looking ball that seemed they were about to smash into each other, and they started flying right directly at each other, and then they just stopped. And then one just took off into the skies to the left, and one took off to the right, and that was it. They were gone. So, and then the next evening, this guy, after we were telling this story around, this guy got attacked in a plane by this same orange ball in the same sort of area. So there was that. And then also I got cut off. I was talking about seeing these guys all diving around. There was some weird other stuff there. There was these people, this one dude and possibly a few others that was behind him that might have been wearing a hazmat-like sort of suit. There was these strange cop to sort of men in black sort of guys that were more sort of secret service-y looking sort of characters that were hiding way down blocks, several blocks further away from the rest of the guys, and seemingly to be up to their own sort of weirdness, whatever they were doing. But the strangest thing, and the part that got cut off, was that these several ambulances was there, and we saw these guys come with these leaving from the dock. Now, this is the weird thing. So I didn't see all of them come at first. We came upon them when they were already there, some of them, not all of them, because some of them hadn't arrived yet. But, you know what I mean? We might have shown up, like, let's say, minutes later after, let's say, the first arrival of these characters or whatever, right? So some of them were in the water doing this and that, but these guys with the ambulances, they left from the dock with these great big sort of body-looking bags, and they went inside their ambulances and covered themselves like they were, as if they were always trying to block anybody from looking within, sort of. I can't explain it, but it was very strange. We were watching this, and we were fascinated by this, and then they shut their doors, and then they were there for a while, then they just took off, right? So, I mean, did they have some, something that they uncovered or whatever, like, or did we miss, and they had brought the body bags to the dock, and then they found out that there was no bodies to be gotten, so then they brought them back and then left? That's another feasibility. This I cannot answer you. But one way or the other, I can tell you this, that there was some depth difference in a couple of this little edge area on the Gatineau, that exactly where these locals said that they saw it flying in, sort of area. So that's one thing. There was very strange divers, the weird outfits, and like I said, men in black sort of like characters, and a bunch of other weirdos of all sorts that was mixed in with this entourage of strangeness, walking with, seemingly carrying what seemed to us like probably something in these bags, but I can't prove this and I don't know, but one way or the other, something weird was there, right? So anyways, that was the other thing, sort of thing. So, let's see, was there anything else that got cut out of there? Oh yeah, and I apologize quite often. We repeated about the dragon sort of aspect of it and stuff like that, but the same thing. It's just that some of these were recorded for a different show, and the clown show as well. I had this clown show I was going to do, so I recorded this alien lady that I wasn't sure where her background was from, and but I used her in a piece of just being like sort of this cute clown, like sort of weird, strange space alien sort of lady. But I found out since then that actually this woman was supposed to have been found in a crash over in Europe back in the early 1950s. So I was right about the era, and I guessed it right pretty well, most of the stuff. And apparently this was one of the aliens that was taken out of it. So that was the update, as well as I had been talking about Game of Thrones, which I absolutely love this show, and so I had put it in this thing, and the recording got cut out, so I apologize about that. And there's a little bit of a quiet time there for about 20 seconds near probably the middle of the sort of video, that if you want to rush for a popcorn or something. But basically, it's just mentioning that I did find finally the origin of this lady that I'm joking about in this piece about clowns. So that's why all of a sudden I'm talking about clowns. And that's pretty well about as all I can recall of what got messed up. But I mean, I had a bunch of creatures here and stuff, and a lot of things was going on, and I had to stop it many, many times, and it was driving me crazy. And sometimes this happens to me, or I got to do these at 3, 4 in the morning, so sometimes I'll say something backwards, or, this kind of thing, like some little thing happened, or I cut, or I have to stop it, and then I can't remember if I had said what I wanted to say or not, so I do it again just in case. And then if you edit it, then you're cutting out other parts that you mentioned that you didn't mention. So I just find it too pain of an ass, so I just left it in. All right. So that sort of thing. So have you ever wondered, like, if Men in Black or imagination, this kind of stuff? Well, in this book, I'm going to tell you an update there about it after this show. But, and I'll be doing also an updated, a new sort of show about Sasquatch with a much sort of a more in-depth detail and some huge, fascinating, the best films out there, the best evidence I'm going to cover for the skeptics from ancient history to everything. So in another one I had done, which I've gotten quite a few thousand views of it and stuff like that, and I mean, this is a Canadian one. The Americans don't really see these much and that sort of thing, but nevertheless, I had made a mistake. I was trying to, because an interview I did with Bob Gimlin, And I was trying to explain about some weights and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm going to go through that properly this time and stuff like that. Again, sometimes I do these 3, 4 in the morning, or I got other stuff going on. So occasionally, you know, but you get some kind of weird thing, sort of stuff. Oh, and another update. I want to counteract the critics here. So if you watch my Dragon piece, there's some clowns around here that are trying to stipulate that the boy's video is of a dragon salamander over in Asia. It is not at all a salamander, okay? And I can tell you this, all these skeptics have all tried to say that it's the species of salamander that's known over there. It's not at all. These salamanders do not have this wing-like appendages on them like this creature did. Also, in the ancient times, this creature's recorded exactly as this Chinese boy had filmed, this tourist there had filmed. He had, these early historians had caught babies before, and they were pink and soft. They didn't have the dewlaps yet and the stuff. But the difference between them and what this creature was filmed on this show, what this kid filmed in a cave on his camera, that has been proven it wasn't tampered with and stuff, and it very likely is a real, actual living creature. What the boy actually filmed is not one of these salamanders. They do look similar, I agree this. But if you actually look, you're not looking, and these skeptics are just shooting out a fake thing. They're not telling you the truth, and I'm a very truthful guy, and I'm going to stick by my findings. I froze this frame by frame many multitudes of times, and this creature has these wing-like appendages and also an ancient tail that they don't have, that these salamanders don't have as well. There's a few parts of it that does not match in the slightest. So yes, they look similar. The heads are similar. The color's similar. Very many sort of the shape is very similar. And they both live in caves. Yes, they're probably related in some kind of lizard-like form. But the point is that this dragon creature really is a separate creature, and that's a baby one, and he just happens to look similar to one of these things. But I assure you, so I'm sorry there, Bill, I'm sorry all you guys out there that keep making this claim, you're incorrect. I have sent this on purpose to some experts in these kinds of fields of this, and I didn't tell them. I said, can you identify the leg of this creature with this appendage on it? And they can't, right? And yet these guys are actually experts on this particular species. So I tricked them, right? So I know, you know what I mean? I've investigated this animal quite a bit of time now, looking at this film multitudes of time. It matches the description of the earliest animal historians and stuff, how they said that they'd find them in the caves, the babies, they were pink, soft and stuff, their teeth are all soft inside. How they have these little like wing-like things underneath their legs, exactly as they describe. This creature's slightly different. So yes, I agree that by a glance, if you looked at the two from a far-off picture, you might think that. They do look that close, 98% closeness. But there's some key differences, this ancient tail, dragon-like tail that it has, as well as these wing-like appendages that grow off of its legs, these salamanders do not have. So that's you know what I mean? So that's another update there. But anyways, we'll continue on to the Men in Black sort of stuff and these ancient death angels, grim reapers, these sorts of stuff like that. So have you ever wondered if good and dark angels exist? Now, in the other show, we covered about plenty of evidence out there that these angels exist, and that really, you know what I mean, that may possibly actually fly in sort of spaceships and stuff. But now, if ones look like that, there's like this lady here on the left, wherever planet she's floating on, well then, I mean, if I had to be captured by a space alien, that's the one. I can 100%, no problem, sit and live with her and these dragon creatures here and the lions, my buddies the lions, and there's the Ark of the Covenant there that she's carrying, and the Jacob's ladder-like thing flying going up into the heavens, right? So she seems pretty good and extremely cute, so I would absolutely have no issue with that one. But now these guys I have a bit of problem with, as well as Jack and Jill here. As you can see, they're bolting for the hills. They're seeing this nice angel here, another blondie. She's up here. I'm going to save Jack and Jill from this Captain Jean-Guy here and his entourage. Sort of thing, right? So apparently these Grim Reaper dudes, like the general, like guys like riding some creepy like horse or something, and some of them will come out of a spaceship. So I mean, out of the two, I mean, I'm sure some of you guys that are fans of the creepy ones, well then, I mean, maybe you would rather see one of them, but me, I'll take Blondie here on the left there. So I mean, again, you know, if you're going to be captured by a space alien, I mean, she might as well be cute. These Grim Reaper guys, I don't know about that one. So let's look at some mentions of these early angel-like figures through history here. Like in the Bible, you got, you know, God does this quite a few times, actually. I mean, he's, there's this sort of, I guess, supposition, like we all sort of envision in our mind that now God's sort of, you know, chilling out doing his thing or whatever, and he's going to come back here someday and lay some waste and whatever. But how does one know that God has ever stopped this sort of methodology occasionally when he feels need to? And the reason that I'll be saying this is we'll talk about this in a bit, but here you have God sends down these sort of, you know, messengers, whatever there, that are going to come to the door, and, you know what I mean, if the Israelite would put the marking on there, this is going to warn this dark angel that, you know what I mean, tell that these people are good inside of there, right? And so then this way he'll bypass you, or she will, or whatever the case may be, right? I still really, nobody can prove whether angel's a guy or girl, or maybe possibly both exist or whatever, so I kind of leave it on the fence. I mean, me personally, I hope there's some blondie angels like that. Flipping a redhead, maybe a booty one too, a nice little Asian angel there, and a few others there. I think I'd be good to go there. but seriously though, so but these sort of things, like, I mean, has been mentioned many times of this sort of thing where, you know what I mean, some kind of dark omen-like figures have came to people's homes or attacked them in some kind of a way, and that they're going to die or whatever. But if you know, put some a thing around your building to protect it with some kind of symbol or whatever of gods or some kind of thing like that, then you're protected, sort of idea. So this idea has been around and been sort of different ones, you know, besides the Bible, a similar like sort of a thing. Now, early mentions of these mysterious killing figures have been spotted since time began, it seems, of one sort or another, from ancient Egyptian to the Chinese, as well as many cultures worldwide, have some mention of a grim reaper-like sort of a figure, sort of death angel sort of idea. So we'll not cover all the earliest mentions out there. I mean, there's so much of this stuff that's mind-boggling. Again, in the Bible, there's all kinds of mentions of this sort of stuff. So we'll mention a few of these things, but I'm not going to go through a ton of them. What I'm more interested in is talking about the Black Plague time. Now, the reason I'm getting to this is that through these ages, there was these grim-like reaper figures, and everywhere where the plague was, there was these mists that were seen coming in around the same time. A Black Plague lasted for about 400 years, first started in China, when in China they recorded at the time that there was these glowing balls in the skies and bright meteors and bright clouds and stuff, again using these same terminologies, right? UFO, was flying by and spreading this noxious gas. Then all of a sudden everybody in the town or village would start getting sick. Then this then spread over to Europe, the same thing with this mist. And what's the most fascinating is a lot of these places was hundreds and hundreds of miles in isolated areas away from others, yet you're making the claim that they were, the scientists had thought that it was the rats and stuff. And yes, they may have actually bitten people that had the disease and then spread it. That's possible. Yes, that's very true that they may have been responsible for some of it. However, it's seemingly that there's something else here, like a biological warfare sort of thing going on. And again, you have a direct Bible scriptures saying a same kind of entity coming down and doing this sort of stuff. There's other mentions of these sort of things that we're going to go over that is quite interesting, that, you know what I mean? But, and the bottom line of it is that about 100 million people or so, depending on the authority you're listening to, died of this Black Plague over a 400-year span, conveniently in all these places from China to hidden little villages in Europe. They all mysteriously would see a great mist come in, and then all of a sudden they'd all start getting deadly ill. Only a few mentions that there was heavy rat infestations in almost any of the cases, so very few to support the rat infestation of fleas. And one would wonder, how does this, you know what I mean, like the rat then, you know what I mean, if you're like, why would this rat then run 500 miles into some isolated community or whatever to now infect new people? I mean, some of these things don't make any sense, but interestingly, one correlation is that all of them, in every single one, there's this mist-like sort of stuff. And then also, we're going to go about these creepy Grim Reapers in a lot of them that we're actually seeing, right? So this is extremely fascinating sort of thing, and they're very much like these death angels in a lot of ways. So the question is that since the first show of you seeing that, yes, possibly there's this God sort of ruler out there, or at least some sort of third parties out there, somebody's guarding us up in the skies, or these kinds of stuff, well then, what if that, you know, just because, I mean, the Bible was made ages ago, does this necessarily mean then that the God mentions that everything he's going to be doing until the day he returns? Maybe he doesn't. So how does one know when he mentions these things? Like he talks about, you know, a lot of different things there where he's sort of a god of war sometimes and stuff like that. When he gets mad, we'll talk about the Syrians, how, you know, he blasted a bunch of them to Kingdom Come and a bunch of other different groups over the ages sort of thing. And it may be that unknown to us, that this continued on. That just because, you know what I mean, we tend to sort of think that God's chilled out now a little bit and sort of only going to come back and, you know what I mean, blast at the end with this Titanic battle sort of thing. Meanwhile, we're kind of, you know what I mean, sort of thinking he's not really, you know, but how does one know that maybe, just like in the past, that, you know, I mean, certain groups or different things out there really beat them up, and he decided to, you know what I mean, but this time maybe not advertise it as much, sort of stuff. So that's one feasibility. Another feasibility is that some other alien life forms trying to kill us off, and that maybe these angel guardians saved our lives somehow through some sort of stuff, so we're going to go through that method as well. And or possibly that some sick individual groups out there, some kind of wacky army that had some kind of deadly stuff that this secret organization somehow was going around and wiping out the enemy within by simply, you have the suits on, whatever, some kind of suits that they had designed, and then they would release these poisons in the different places, but they're actually humans doing it for some kind of takeover sort of thing. So, I mean, there's these different feasibilities out there and sort of stuff like that. So we'll cover stuff like this, early Men in Black, vampires sort of connection, and some of these weird stuff. But we'll first talk about this sort of thing here with some of the early sightings of these Men in Black, sort of like these Grim Reaper sort of characters there. A lot of times you can tell that all three are the same really here. It's just that most of the time just the village would see the mist come into the town and then they would start dying. Some of the reports, they had these guys with scythes knocking at their doors, but not knocking at all people's doors and leaving some of them alone. Where does that sound very familiar to you? Were we just not talking about this with this death angel in the Bible, right? I mean, it sounds extremely similar, right? Sort of a thing. And or seeing these bright lights in the sky with the noxious gas, then these creepy dudes coming out in black robes, you know, sort of thing with these glowing scythes and this noxious mist coming out of it and them spraying it through the fields. Interestingly, exactly around this sort of era, you started getting these early reports of these giant killer dogs. And that was the other thing that I was going to fix up. I'd forgotten in the first one. Some little part got messed up there. I'd started talking about how this midget got attacked by this giant rat, and I got cut off of the recording. The idea was that, interestingly, around when this stuff started happening, these people started reporting these gigantic, Titanic-sized rats, way bigger than the monsters we're reporting today from the New York sewers and stuff, the size of a dog. These suckers were mega-sized, like giants that could carry away young adult humans. And there's a full, well-documented case of many workers sitting around watching. Sometimes these groups of rats would come out of monstrous size that were bigger than a capybara sort of a thing, and they would actually, this one guy was sitting there, a midget, and this giant monster rat came along and grabbed him and started eating him and dragged him away and ate him. Yeah, like one giant rat. It was that powerful to drag, you know what I mean, an adult human being that said, you know what I mean, he was diminutive, but still, I mean, you know, these rats seem to have grown, and same with these killer dogs and some of these other stuff. So there was, I showed you in the first video that this Hound of Baskerville actually really existed and wasn't even exaggerated. Well, the same stories around the same time of these giant rats, also giant carrion birds, giant eagles flying away with people's children and stuff like that. Did something that these guys were spraying, whomever these you know, Grim Reaper sort of characters are, then it's interesting that maybe a couple things was happening here. Either maybe a lot of the rats would die from this plague as well, and then some rats, then because of all this extra food now and the mutations and stuff, some of them build an immunity to it, and then they become like super big and huge. And same with the dogs, because of lack of food, maybe like weird stuff where somehow these creatures become like quickly sort of get bigger and stuff of whatever from some kind of the disease that they were spreading or stuff like that. I mean, it's hard to know, but it's very strange that these creatures disappeared seemingly, you know what I mean, around the same time, and interestingly vanish around the same time when the Black Plague finishes. then you get back more to your typical size monster rats of today reported. I'm telling you, Joey was the size of my pit bull sort of thing, right? Like these kind of size, but these mothers were titans, like monsters. Same with the birds, were reportedly having like 15, 20-foot wingspans on them and these kinds of stuff, right? So all of these things are interesting where possibly, just possibly by some kind of weird thing that maybe this gas that they were spraying maybe didn't kill all creatures and maybe had some kind of an effect on some of them that would make them a mutant monster size. Another possibility is that there possibly an unknown species of giant dogs, as well as wild dogs, as well as giant wild rats, and possibly some kind of giant last known eagle sort of variety that might have lived in Europe at the time, that because of this plague, maybe their food source started dying out in this mist floating around. But let's say these rats were immune to it, these giant rats, just like the small rats are. Maybe then them and these dogs being used to being around filthy garbage all the time, maybe they build immunity to it, they got better immune systems. So these two kinds of creatures, along with these giant birds or whatever, now had these sort of, their food sources now curbed away. They then start going inland right into villages and getting more desperate for food and start picking off humans. There's massive, like tons of stories of these women as saying that, you know, they would have like children and they're sitting in their cribs and all of a sudden these giant rats would bust in and drag them away. And I mean, all this kinds of stuff. So this is fascinating that this also happened around the same sort of a time. And interestingly, they vanish again when these reports seem to have stopped. And fascinatingly, too, is now it is true that for sure that rats did probably spread some of this plague. But what's interesting about it is, besides this giant rat phenomenon and stuff like that, is that the modern, like after this sort of stuff slowed down, right? These cats, when they were released near the end times, the king had proclaimed everybody to leave the cats alone to attack these rats. What if that these larger, this unknown species of giant mega rat that once existed, what if these cats actually, because even big cats, right, they might have, you know what I mean, like, because apparently these rats were always low in numbers. You'd either see 1 to as many as up to 4, and I think there was one report of 7 or 8 of them that I can recall. But let's say 10 or less, you're guaranteed of this amount, right? So that's sort of the thing. Well, then obviously they couldn't have been in big numbers. And maybe, you know what I mean, by letting loose all these cats, some of these cats were big, like 20-some pounds on them, 30 pounds, the odd cat can get, or even bigger. And, you know what I mean, even a giant monster rat that's 5 feet long or something, sort of thing, might not be able to defend himself against, you know what I mean, a cat or two, or maybe a group of them would take him on, and they might have killed off this giant rat species. It's possible. They might have gotten the babies before they get big enough again. And maybe the adults got killed, the few that was around. And when they had children, you know what I mean, the middle ones would be grabbed because of this increase in cats and stuff like that. So that's another fascinating sort of a side sort of a thing to this sort of a thing. But so there's this possibility, as well as also possibly dark angels in the evil variety, where God doesn't have a purpose for it, but there's sort of, you know what I mean, maybe some kind of like devil-like thing where he wanted to wipe out a bunch of you know, some of humans for whatever reason, right? Like some kind of a methodology like that. Like one of the reports there in 1571, these black riders appeared, that, you know what I mean, with these a wild looking sort of haunted, creepy horses sort of things, right? And then these all these people started dying there and hungry with this plague, the Black Plague, right after they saw them, and this noxious gas and stuff. Again, sounds very the same Grim Reaper-like characters, right? So what are these Grim Reaper-like things? Did they have anything to do with these giant rat phenomena, or is that just some side product of it? I mean, these things are hard to know, but very fascinating. Now, many other similar reports had happened after seeing these chariots, because in the skies are similar, of men in black and robes with skies were coming right through the towns through Europe, as well as the most interesting of them, again, of these knocking at the door ones, were totally fascinating. And I mean, this happened all the way from China to there, right? There's mentions too, like as I was talking about before there, about God still doing this sort of stuff. I mean, Syria there, he warned them. He said, you lay one hand on the Jewish and this kind of stuff like that, I'm going to mow you down sort of idea. And he sent some kind of, angels or plague upon them. And by morning time, there was over 100,000 of them wasted their dead, right? So, I mean, the idea here is that, let's see, these, since the Bible is telling us that these angels do exist, that do have the ability to come down and wipe you out sort of a thing if they need be, right? So AKA a Grim Reaper-like sort of a character here, right? What if that God, just because, again, this Bible thing, what if God, still occasionally does these sorts of things to certain groups or whatever, right? So, I mean, it's an interesting phenomena where you have these, correlation here where this sort of stuff, like one of mentioned there of God's angel, his name's Azrael, the angel of death, whom the Lord instructs Iblis carries some kind of wild sword, okay? So he's got this wild sword, sort of a destruction sort of thing there. Many other cultures have some kind of death-like angel being sent from whatever name they call a god-like figure. He even warns you of his servants can be in any form, as you saw in the video, first part of an angel flying over the mount. Possibly people you have met may actually be one of them protecting us or coming to get us. Who knows, right? So, I mean, one way or the other, it's a fascinating thing that you can find this correlation, and, I mean, it's so consistent. It just blows your mind. I mean, you got to wonder, I mean, why would this mist appear every time and all this kind of weird stuff? But, I mean, I don't really know, again, is this God this time doing that, or is this possibly some kind of aliens and stuff like that? Now, besides that sort of thing, I mean, Grim Reapers have been still seen up to this day sort of stuff. So, I mean, I'm not going to go too much more about that sort of thing, but, I mean, there's these other sort of dark angels that are interesting. Like, I met this lady from the Philippines, and she told me that they have this a devil woman over there that's a vampire, that will steal their children and suck the blood out of them and stuff like that, and these weird sort of things. And she swears up and down that her entire family saw this creature, and it flew down in the middle of this apartment complex. So how do I describe this? Sort of like, it's like you got an apartment building, but then you got this little space, sort of like the grass or whatever. Then the apartment building wall is on the other side, like, so it's all the same apartments, but they just sort of like have this sort of midsection to it, right? Well, she all lives with her relatives, and the different sort of, they all live in the same community, and I can't believe it, but I mean, sometimes this lady has over 100 kids going through her place in a day. Astonishing. I mean, I don't know, man. That'd be that's a bit wild. The kids are great, and I love bringing about fishing and all that kind of stuff like that. But I mean, 100 of them a day running around. That's a bit wild. But anyway, nevertheless, she was there one evening, and they heard this screeching, right? And they seen this Batman, Batgirl-like figure. This thing's apparently like 8 to 10 feet tall. They got giant wings on them, like some kind of angel-like figure like that, but more bat-like, with some kind of creepy bat-like sort of a face to them, and they'll screech. And this thing was looking through the windows, looking possibly for a baby and stuff like that. And she said that before there was a baby there years before in the same area, that apparently some thing, this monster had flown down another time and actually grabbed the baby and flew away with it, and it disappeared. So they were petrified, thinking that it was going to get their kids, right, and stuff like that. So absolutely fascinating, but it's a vampire-like sort of a creature, sort of a thing down there. There's other ones like Lilith and Lamashtu is described as, again, this evil vampire woman. So interesting, even the Jewish have something like this in their sort of a thing. And I mean, Jewish are God's people, so, you know, I mean, again, I'm a very historical person, and I notice that the crazy stories can't be real, and then they end up being real, like the sheepdog of England and stuff like that. So I'm just a bit more open-minded. It's possible that there's some weird-ass stuff out there that we just don't understand. Now, again, is this some kind of dark angels in disguise of some sort, or, yeah, you know what I mean? Is this a separate entity? Is this some kind of cryptozoological creature like the Ahul? They report the same thing there, with the Ahul doing this similar-like behavior. So it could be the same creature. I think there's another name they call it Pota Pangbei, or some weird name. She had some other wacky name for it. I can't even remember. But fascinating sort of stuff. But I mean, I 100% believe this woman. I mean, I guarantee you, this woman was not lying to me. I know myself personally. You know, I've interviewed these, and some people, I mean, I'd say about 30% of people I've interviewed have stretched a tail or two, but some of them no, and this lady is the most straightforward, serious, down-to-earth sort of an individual, and I mean, she was absolutely petrified. You know, I was watching her on her thing there because we were talking. I could see her facial expressions and all this stuff, and I mean, I just, no. I mean, she was really, like, concerned for her family and this sort of stuff like that, so whatever she saw some kind of bat-like monster out there. Whatever the hell it was, I have no idea. I mean, she believes it was this demon, vampire, angel, dark angel monster, but I mean, I don't, you know, as far as I know, it could be some unknown giant species of bat or something, right? I mean, the Philippines have some of the biggest bats in the world, sort of thing, so it could be some unknown species that these people are seeing, and maybe this giant bat occasionally does eat some kind of smaller prey, which could be AKA a little 3-4-year-old kid or something, right? Or a 2-year-old kid running around. Very sad and terrifying, but I mean, it could be like any other creature. You know, eagles have been known to do this sort of stuff and other things, right? So I mean, but so it's fascinating that there's these interesting sort of you know, weird sort of alien-like sort of you know, these early sort of Men in Blacky to creepy, like vampiric sort of death angel sort of things, right? So next year, though, we're gonna. There was something else I wanted to show you that I wasn't able to show in the first film. This is fantastic. I absolutely love this. I've shown you here my buddy here, the space alien guy that I found from the earlier 1800s. This is an extremely early photo. I mean, this was before bike racing or any of these possibilities. And if you look at this helmet, I mean, seriously, it's made out of some kind of weird material that is not steel or brass or anything like that. We're not supposed to have material these days. But now here's what's fascinating, and this one I had forgotten to show you, is I wanted to show you this. Here's a thousands of years old in a cave painting in Kazakhstan, okay? Now look at this guy here, his space helmet. Now look at him. I mean, they look very similar, you got to admit. I mean, he's got the same kind of suit like on here, right? And the only difference is this macho here, because he's with Darth Vaderette here, right? He doesn't have the laser beam space gun with him, but I mean, it's the same kind of spaceship here as typical. You can clearly see the spaceship. I mean, how more direct do we really want to get here? I mean, come on, even the most skeptical guy, you gotta admit, I mean, this is extremely space alien. So again, you know, this one, I love this one. This one excites me. It's a very good proof to me that yes, humans in the past probably did see what I think I'm looking at here, some kind of weird space traveler, possibly angel visiting somebody here in one of their suits. I have no idea, but I mean, whatever this dude was, and there's no helmets in these eras that would fit this. And there's no, his whole outfit is very strange. And you can even see that what's interesting too is this helmet is not only the same with the same size of eyeballs, the same little side areas exactly where he's got the listening devices, but the only big difference is the antenna part, but no. On the top of this helmet, you see these two little bump-like things coming out. So this may be an improved helmet, right, where you don't need the antennas as high as back way in the day. Or B, that this, maybe when he's indoors, the antennas shrink back down inside the helmet, like telescopic. So I'm not convinced that these two dudes aren't the same guy. As far as I know, maybe this guy visited this broad here. You know what I mean? Maybe have a love fest going on there or something. He might have been her secret lover, or whatever, that sort of thing. And this guy here might have been him ages ago, maybe looking for a girlfriend. But all kidding aside, though, seriously, I love this, but you got to admit that's very interesting. And I mean, seriously, so if you think Kenneth Arnold's the first guy to see a UFO, I'd be down there. Now, I want to give a shout out to either the most genius, before we get more into the Men in Black stuff next, I want to give whoever done this film, either is an extreme genius and maybe slightly psychotic. but all kidding aside, seriously, if this is a fake film, then whoever done this has the most imaginative, creative mind. I got to give you like you've beaten every sort of, you know, wild novelist out there when it comes to a great idea. This is as weird as they humanly come. Now, I came by this. I'm always searching and researching weird films. I'm looking for ancient stuff, proof of aliens, proof of Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, all that kind of stuff. I just constantly love Fortean sort of things and giant fish behavior and all these weird stuff that I'm into. And so anyways, I was looking around, and I was interested in this early Men in Black stuff. I like looking up these sort of like reports of ancient times of, you know, these, quite often you'd get these vampire-like guys that were strange, like some of these entities that this Philippine lady reported and similar like stuff, where a vampire comes along in a coach. He invites you in, you all of a sudden disappear into the skies, and you're gone, never to be seen again out of the village, or you're found dead with your blood drained out. Again, is this some kind of weird thing where this plague-like thing, maybe it's a death angel now testing you later, your blood, to see, you know, why you didn't die from it? Because, again, most of these happen around this Black Plague time. So I find this interesting as well. And these same creepy vampire-like guys are still reported up to this day in here, including this supposed film here. Now, this is the real Men in Black, the original sort of badass motherfuckers sort of guys. The original ones were the badass angels coming down from the skies there and kicking the Egyptians' asses and that sort of stuff. These sort of ones. And these original sort of maybe the same entities, but in a different disguise, these vampire-like sort of, dark, creepy characters sort of thing, and then the modern version, more of our Men in Black, sort of 1940s and above with the more sort of secret agent sort of look to them. But in this film is the weirdest thing ever. This was supposedly on some kind of government sort of filming this thing, right, like a 24-hour surveillance sort of thing, and it's so weird that I can't even. Okay, well, we'll start off with it. I'll just describe it. You can see this door here. I won't get into that figure that's in front of it right now. I'll mention him at the end, but you can see this door here. There seems to be like this icy-like substance, whether this is an ice shack on top of ice, whether this is some strange floor that's been really buffed of wax and there's ice further down, I can't tell you. It's extremely confusing. Okay, so all I can tell you is this, that originally the film starts off and this guy comes out and he starts walking what seemingly is on the ice or whatever this stuff is. And you see a bit of water there and stuff like that. And the guy's walking back and forth. All of a sudden you see this shadow-like thing shoot from underneath the water and then this smash through the ice and the monster attacks the guy. So that's pretty inventive. Not a bad imagination. You get this fake film with the ice fisherman coming out and the guys as well, or whatever, this guy walking around and the ice monster gets him. Okay, so that's, you know what I mean, a little bit of imagination. But now you got a new guy now bolts out that he comes out and he's on a walkie-talkie like thing. He bolts towards the guy to save him. Then this monster then gives the guy another yank or two, and all of a sudden you start seeing this guy sliding and vanishing like as if this ice goes on a slope. I froze all the frames to see what was the monster that was breaking through the ice to get the guy. And on one of them is the most fascinating thing. You see this giant shape and face exactly of an alien gray. So something was underneath the ice or some kind of floor that looks like a giant monster version of an alien gray that comes and busts through ice seemingly, or plastic or whatever the hell this shit is. And something was underneath the water, it seems, that comes up and attacks this guy. The other guy tries and saves him. The guy then gets yanked away, starts sliding away. This guy panics and runs back into the shack and vanishes. He then comes back out a second later to look for the guy again. Now, here's the interesting thing. Now the monster comes back again and attacks this guy and tries and breaks through at the ice and makes a big swash at him. So he bolts back inside. Now here's where it gets even a million times weirder. Then all of a sudden this white body-like figure flies perfectly and flies back through the door. So did the monster eat the guy and now reject him and cough him back up and shoot him back into this ice shack? Or was that some other monster that has now just happened to fly by and land in here as well? I mean, absolutely bizarre. But then to make the kicker of all kickers, if that wasn't, I mean, the ice fish monster, I could see people coming up with that one. I mean, that's not massively imaginative. Even the second part of the guy trying to save you and all that kind of stuff, I could even see that. the third one where the monster gulps back out the monster, and now the guy looks very different, and perfectly you can cast him right in the center of the door. Well, that's pretty weirdly imaginative, I must admit. Most wouldn't have thought of that one. But then to top it all off, to finish this mystery, to leave you completely perplexed into another universe, now a Count Dracula guy comes out. This guy looks exactly like a friggin' Men in Black Count Dracula of ancient times, and you see this creepy guy, and he starts, like this, like a muhaha, and he starts meandering off out onto the ice or this floor or whatever the hell that shit is supposed to be. So, I mean, it's the most confusing, weirdest videos. This guy's only had 100-some hits off of it. I find it beyond fascinating. If somebody could explain to me, is this some kind of weird play and whatever that these actors are portraying some sort of ancient weird thing of a story or something, or did this really occur, and is that really ice? Then if so, the monster I'm going to show you in the next thing here, I'll show you, you'll look at him and wonder in your mind, oh my God, that's pretty weird. Because I froze the spray many times and I was able to get these shots of it, so nobody's noticed this. I've never seen anybody write anything about it. I don't think this film's even known. So that's the whole point is that I think somebody like, one of these researchers that into all these Men in Black sort of stuff would love this sort of thing. I'm pretty sure Giorgio would find this entertaining, and Janikin and Mr. Redford there, that guy. Holy cow, nobody knows more about Men in Black and creepy Dracula like guys than him. I think that guy's like a writer of 50, 60 books already or something. So, great stuff. I've never, sadly, but I've always wanted to read some of his stuff, but I haven't been able to, and I would absolutely love, apparently he's got one where even he has a correlation of the, the Loch Ness Monster and, the Men in Black, right? So, great stuff. So it sounds fascinating, sort of thing. So I'm sure he'd like something weird like this, because this is another version here of a Men in Black sort of creepy like dude. So what this guy was, what this is about, who this space alien ice monster is, or anything, I haven't a clue, man. But I'm telling you, this is the weirdest video that has me so sort of wondering what kind of wacko imagination would you have to come up with this. Is pretty out there, right? So, these sightings of today of the Men in Black is, still occurring, but they're much more sort of like typically, again, the sort of more of a Secret Service-like looking sort of guys. The psychic, they're in this book, I just given you an update there. Probably they're just working at some last little sorts of things here and some little editing issues and little tweaks that they wanted to do. So we're just not sure the date yet or whatever, but I'll be releasing this again. So I'll show the commercial again for a sort of thing, like the preview of it sort of thing, commercial, whatever you want to call it, sort of idea. And then, so look for it probably in December sometime. I'll be able to finally finish hopefully they'll be able to finish all the stuff they need to do and stuff like that. But all the way from Area 51 to Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, these Men in Black have been seen, right, in one form or another. And this psychic actually might have seen the largest group of them ever recorded and stuff like that. Even myself, I said once I saw one. You know what I mean? I can't, they weren't like the Men in Black that he saw, like the traditional sort of kind. But, again, I saw some pretty strange dudes out there at the same evening as this spaceship supposedly landed in the water. so I don't know. But anyways, but bottom line, these Men in Black seem to always show up right after a spaceship sighting. This would happen to the kid. The spaceship was still in the air, actually, when probably when these guys showed up. So they showed up probably within seconds of it disappearing, or it was still in the air, right at that second sort of when these guys came. It was witnessed by all the family people there. There was people on the phone that they were talking to. All of them knew about it. This was talked about yearly at Christmas time and all this kinds of stuff through the family of his family and this sort of stuff. And they all know about this, these men in black dudes. And I mean, it's the most fascinating sort of stuff. But all of them, it's the same MO where the guys come and they sort of warn you, you know what I mean? Don't talk about what you saw or did you see anything and this kind of stuff. So I'll let the book describe his sort of adventure and all the wild stuff that happened there. But nevertheless, it's the most fascinating thing ever. I mean, especially if you love the 70s, drug, sex, rock and roll, religion. It's so out there. I mean, it's mind-boggling. But anyways, it's even though it's considered like supposed to be like a fiction sort of thing, it really. The stories all are 100% based on fact, and these things really did occur, individuals and stuff like that. So it's absolutely mind-boggling, weird sort of stuff. So anyways, I'm going to leave it pretty well about that. I just wanted to cover a little bit about these sort of, this interesting phenomena that, again, who's to say these men in black sort of, and this earlier Dracula like Men in Black and all these sort of other ones through this history where I showed you in the first one, there seems to be really a big correlation here. And again, are these men in black, these modern ones, some kind of angels in disguise or some kind of secret government agency, or were the Dracula-like guys the dark angels in disguise, but the modern ones are, just more like Secret Service, some kind of government agency monitoring UFOs. I mean, it's hard to know, but fascinating stuff. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this interesting look that definitely there is something out in the skies there. So whether you choose to believe in God, that's up to you. But bottom line is that to deny and say with the bazillions of planets that we have and all these things going on, to deny that and say that, such things couldn't exist, then you would have to call massive, like, now in the millions of people witnesses to UFOs and angels and these kinds of stuff. Every single one of them since ancient history would have to be lying. It's not plausible. So, yeah, you know what I mean? So take it as you will, but so hopefully you enjoyed it there, and hopefully it cleared up a couple of mistakes here. I'm going to go do a fantastic Bigfoot show for you. Show you a whole bunch of fascinating sort of stuff. I'm even going to include some alien Bigfoot reports. So I'm going to cover it for skeptics, the firm believers. I'm going to show you the silly, the good, the bad, and the ugly of Bigfoot sort of thing. So anyways, stay tuned to that, as well as a show on mermaids and a few other ones coming up. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this different alternative look there, and we'll do next about this psychic there and some of the famous people that are going to be that are mentioned in it, run-ins with these cults like Bohemian Grove and all kinds of weird stuff. So fascinating things. So stay tuned for the update of that. Keep a lookout on my comments part, or just, keep a lookout part 3. When I say part 3, that will be their official sort of release when they're going to do it, where the book's available and all that sort of stuff. So bye for now, and thanks for listening. Take care. God, aliens are real, aliens are not, God's real, God isn't. Like, it's an up and down yo-yo of opinions and different things that is controlled really by others out there by what they spin, right? But the bottom line is that there really is things been seen in the sky since the earliest times. The historic records are there. So even if every single one of these photos and videos and everything was all fake, there's still historically there that the records are there. And since we find these records to be authentic and showing palaces we couldn't believe existed really do, to everything else on the planet that they mention of ancient machinery and stuff that ends up being real, well then it's very logical that many of the other things they say is probably real as well, and maybe we shouldn't be so skeptical of them. So here we go, and let's see about this book with these famous people that are inside of it. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, there you have it, folks. Very fascinating, very fascinating. So if you're interested in reading that, it's the author there. He collected stories from real happenings of different things. It's a fascinating ride. So if you're a UFO researcher, if you're fascinated by alien abductions to all kinds of fascinating things, if you like the 70s and 60s and drugs and all kinds of wild stuff, definitely this book you might find fascinating, all based on real events. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed it. I find it fascinating, and I love the poobah theory and some of the other fascinating things in it. So anyways, take care. Bye for now.